Donald Trump cut billions of dollars from federal programs that funded small farmers. The same program that we got our grant through is no longer funded, and we've just been left to the winds. I don't have anything to say to Donald Trump. There's nothing I can say that he would even listen to. He's gonna look down on me like I'm a bug on the sidewalk or a piece of shit on his shoe. He doesn't care about people like me.
My friends, how are you? It is absolutely fantastic to see you for yet another video. And here in America, we are rapidly entering the find out phase of making a very ill-informed vote in an attempt to own the libs and somehow owning yourself in the process. And we are starting to see it more and more every day, my friends, as the world just keeps getting worse and worse under Donald Trump's failed policy. We've got so much going on, but what we're going to talk about today is there were a bunch of farmers in Arkansas yesterday or the day before that had went to a town hall to meet with their representatives to talk about all the chaos and carnage and destruction that Donald Trump is causing, and they wanted somebody to do something to help them so that they don't go bankrupt in the process. And that is all pretty interesting. The first thing I want to highlight about that is Arkansas, you're fucked. You see, Sarah Huckabee Sanders stood on stage spewing absolute bullshit on Donald Trump's behalf for years. Then she went on to be the governor of Arkansas, and then when there was a natural disaster and the state needed funding to help deal with that natural disaster, Donald Trump told Sarah Huckabee Sanders, no, you're not getting any assistance from the federal government with this. And now we're seeing as the farmers from Arkansas are dealing with the fallout of Donald Trump's economic failure, and they are looking for help from Donald Trump now. Okay, this is all very, very interesting now, isn't it, my friend? So, I guess if you want, we can take a victory lap and say we tried to warn them that this was coming, right? We tried to tell the farmers that their farms were going to go under because J.D. Vance is heavily invested in an app called Acre Trader, where he hopes that the farmers, the family-owned farms, will go bankrupt so that him and his rich friends can buy up all your farmland for really cheap and make a lot of goddamn money. We could have said we tried to warn them, but it is a shocking thing, my friends, isn't it, that farmers had to be warned about how their own goddamn business works? That's a very shocking thing now, isn't it? Like yesterday, we covered the truckers. 17,000 transportation jobs lost in America over the last month because of Donald Trump's failed economic policy and trade wars that he has started with all these other countries. Look, we tried to warn the truckers also, didn't we? But how do you help somebody that doesn't even understand the basic premise of their own fucking job? How do you tell a bunch of people that, hey, your job depends on a working global economy so that you can continue to prosper and make a living for yourself and your family? And they come out and they say, fuck yeah, tariffs, we're going to tariff the shit out of everyone, and we're going to bring manufacturing back to America. By the way, 12,000 manufacturing jobs lost in America last month under Donald Trump's failed economic policy. And you have to look at these people, especially when you talk about trucking or farming, but I'm talking about trucking at the moment, and you go, how do these people not even understand their own profession? They have the nerve to refer to themselves as truck drivers, and they have no idea how a global supply chain works. They don't even know the basic premise of it. And then when you start to think about it that way, you go, well, it wouldn't have done me much good to warn them about what was coming, because they're fucking idiots and they wouldn't have understood what I was trying to tell them anyways, which is how we ended up here now, isn't it, my friend?
We are hearing farmers talk about losing money, losing customers, struggling to sell what they are producing, and I'm thinking, how did we get here? Because remember what the promise was, right? Tariff was supposed to protect American workers and American business. The idea was basically, we are going to put pressure on other countries, we are going to make American production stronger, and eventually America is going to come out on top. That sounds great, but there's something missing from that argument. What happens when the other country fights back? That's the question, because that's exactly what happened with our agricultural system now. China wasn't just sitting there waiting for America to impose tariff and said, okay, we will keep buying everything, not like nothing happened. No, they retaliated, and agriculture became one of the area caught in the middle.
If we snapped our fingers and every single illegal immigrant in the United States disappeared, we would literally starve to death. You wonder why I'm so passionate about agriculture and so passionate about immigration as part of agriculture? It's that, guys. You don't know the whole picture. Now, should we have illegal immigrants working in the field? Should we have illegal immigrants working in construction? Should we have illegal immigrants working in hotels and wherever else they might be? No, we shouldn't. But they are, and there's tens of millions of them working in the system. So if we just say, hey, they got to get out of here, well, you have to have a solution before you just send people out the door. Now, I'm not talking about ethics today, and I've talked a lot about ethics. Let's just talk about economics. Let's just talk about the reality of economics. You send 10 million people out the door that are filling 10 million roles in the United States, and 80% of those people are working in agriculture. What do you think is going to happen? You think you're going to eat tomorrow if there's all of a sudden not people there to harvest, to pick, to pack, to drive the tractors, to do everything? Pretty quick, you'd find yourself without any food in your mouth, any food in your stomach, and you would be starving to death. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because we can't just be stupid. We have to have a solution. The ethics aside, I'm frustrated by the ethics because I know the people that we're talking about, but I think you still want to eat. So no matter what, we got to look at a solution and not just complain about all of the people who are here illegally, because you'll starve to death without.
They're telling us they can't find enough workers. They're saying they need people. They are worried about their crops sitting there and dying, right? They are worried about the harvest. But we've spent years hearing the argument that Americans need to crack down on immigration and let American workers be the one to take this job. Okay, but when you support policy that makes your industry traditional labor supply harder to access, you don't get to act surprised that, oh, there's suddenly labor shortage. That's the part that gets to me. You can't say we don't need these immigrant workers, and then 5 minutes later, you say, who is going to harvest our crops? Bro, that's the question you should have asked before supporting the policy. So this isn't some tiny issue. Farmers have been relying increasingly on this labor system for years. And now some of them are looking around saying, where are our workers? Where are the workers? And exactly, that's what happened when policy or politics meet the real economy. It's easy to say, deport them, we don't need them. It's easy to say, American workers to replace them. It's easy to say all those things. No, the white folks are replacing them. But then you actually need to find these workers. You have to have enough to be able to pay them what the job is worth. You have to provide the condition to make them stay. You have to deal with the fact that agricultural work is seasonal and fiscally demanding. So I'm not just laughing at these farmers for having a labor problem. I'm pointing out the contradiction in their statement, because if you support the policy without thinking through what your industry actually depended on, eventually reality is going to send you the bills and you're going to pay for it. And that's what I think we are watching right now.
Gas is up, diesel is up.
It's all coming down as soon as the war's
crazy.
over.
70% of farmers say they
Crazy.
can't afford fertilizer. What's
Crazy.
your
Farmers are
message
doing very well.
Let me ask you, what is your message to farmers, many who support you, but who say
All of
they're
them
struggling, who say they're
Because there's
struggling?
nobody been better than farmers. You know, I gave farmers last term $28 billion because China took advantage and other people. And you know who paid for it? China. Last term.
Yeah.
You know, I had a great first term. I had the greatest economy ever. And you know what? This one's blowing it away.
What's your message to farmers, though, Mr. President, who say they are struggling, they're struggling to make
Are
ends
you ready?
meet?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to talk? You keep asking questions and you don't listen to the answer. I love the farmers, and the farmers love me, and the farmers trust me.
Yeah.
In the first term, I had something very similar. China and others were, and Canada, which was brutal, they were taking advantage of our farmers. They don't take advantage of it anymore.
Crazy.
I gave them $28 billion split up. They never had a payday like that. And the farmers loved me, and they came back and they voted for me in record numbers. You know that. Nobody's ever even come close. Now,
Yeah.
because of the fact that we had a choice, I had a choice to make. I could keep it going. The farmers were doing great. Fertilizer was very cheap. Everything was cheap. Gasoline was very low. Everything was very low. I could have kept it that way, but I said I have to take a little bit of a turn. The farmer's going to understand it better than anybody. We're going to have a higher gasoline. We're going to have a little higher fertilizer, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to get rid of a nuclear weapon in the hands of
Crazy.
very dangerous
Crazy.
people. Excuse me, wait. It should have been done for 47 years. No president had the guts to do it. I did it, and I've done it. It's almost complete. As soon as that's complete, Gasoline prices are going to drop like a rock.
Very crazy.
We're just absolutely fucked as farmers, guys. Everything is so fucked, and I do not see anybody surviving this farm crisis that we're in. Guys, look, one of the best splorn crops that I have ever raised in my life. And because of the tariffs, China will not fucking buy it. And they are the only country in the world other than, well, they are the only country in the world that buys splorn. And so now I'm literally just chopping it and blowing it on the fucking ground because it's fucking useless. It's valueless. There's nothing I can fucking do to it. I am going to need government assistance to make it through this fucking crisis until these tariffs end. Look, I've never raised a splorn crop like this, guys. And this is just fucking heartbreaking to me. I don't know how I'm gonna survive. You know, Trump said he fucking loved us farmers, and here I am just blowing my splorn crop all over the ground. Hopefully he works a deal out where Antarctica and Mars will start buying this splorn and save the farmers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, splorn crop.
Okay, now listen to what these farmers are saying, because this is where the irony starts getting crazy. They are complaining about the cost of fertilizer. They are complaining about losing access to market. They are complaining about not having enough workers. They are complaining about tariffs. They are complaining that farming is getting harder and harder. And I'm sitting here just thinking, did you guys realize what you really voted for? Did you? Because this is the part that I find fascinating, because you can support a policy because you believe it's going to protect American farmers. But when that same policy produces consequences that eat your own business, you can't just act shocked when the consequence finally reached you. And traffic are perfect example. You hear traffic, it sounds like we are making China pay. That's what you think. But that's not really how this whole thing works. When the United States puts tariff on imports, American businesses can end up paying more on importation goods and everything. American export then lose access to customers. And who is sitting in the middle of this is just that the people sitting on the middle of these things are called the farmers. You guys are the ones suffering it. So when I hear farmers says we are losing the market, I want to ask you, did you ever think about what other countries was going to when they put tariff on them? Did you? Because China, for instance, now, because China isn't obligated to sit there and say, okay, America will keep buying your soybeans anyway. They have option. They can buy from Brazil. They can buy from any other suppliers. And now, USDA is telling us that U.S. agriculture exportation to China has fallen drastically. So this isn't just a political argument that's happening on television. This is the consequence that is happening in today's market, in today's farm. And that's what makes these clips interesting. Because some of these people complain about the consequence without seeming to connect the consequence back to the policy they supported. And we're only just getting started.
Trump says, you know, be patient. The farmer's going to be better than ever. Well, you better hurry up.
So that's a guy named Franz Rowland, and he's been farming for 40 years in Georgia. And it's really this next thing he said that just completely blew my mind.
We've lost our market share, our trade to China. I don't know who dropped the ball in Washington to allow these prices, its trade to diminish like it has. But somebody dropped the ball. Somebody wasn't looking out for us.
This dude is a soybean farmer and has been for 40 years. It's his life. It's his business. And he has no idea, literally no idea why
Crazy, man. It's crazy.
China won't buy our soybeans.
It's crazy.
Seriously. There's a 16-year-old kid somewhere scrubbing the bottom of a toilet in the back of a Hardee's that can tell you why China isn't buying our soybeans. How does a big-time soybean farmer not know that? And by the way, if you remember, they were supposed to start buying our soybeans again. They never did. They never did. Yeah. With that whole deal they made a few months ago where they fixed everything and they were like, okay, they're going to buy soybeans now. They still haven't yet bought any. I've talked a lot recently about how the billionaire and ownership class in this country is buying all the media, social media, all the TV stations, everything so they can completely control all the message. And that is exactly why a 40-year soybean farmer doesn't know why China isn't buying soybeans, because he's not watching the news. He's watching the, I don't know, Trump propaganda network. I don't know what he's watching. And he's literally trying to find anyone else in Washington, D.C. to blame for Donald Trump's trade war against China. And oh, by the way, China stopped buying our soybeans completely the first time Donald Trump was president because of a trade war. I have no idea how someone operates a business for 40 years and has absolutely no concept or idea of how your business is impacted by policies, whether they're local, county, state, or federal. That's literally the most important thing you need to know.
Crazy stuff.
You know, I don't know what it is about this guy. I really want to feel bad for him, but I can't. I can't. If you're that irresponsible to not even know what is happening to your business, I just close down. You have no business being a farmer. Seriously, just shut it down.
There are a lot of farmers that are really hurting right now because of these tariffs. And they are really needing some extra help. Trump, I really hope that you can get out there and help them. I know Biden and them put the plan together to subsidize farmers when they were having hard times in situations like this. But Trump, you didn't do that. You're not doing that. And they're asking for you to come out. I heard one guy said that, you said you love the farmer and now he needs the fruit of their labor or something. So I'm curious, is this administration going to help out the farmers? Because they're needing some help.
Yeah.
A lot of people are calling it socialism, that they don't like it. But it is what it is. You think the farmers are going to get the help they need?
Crazy, very crazy. This is what we are talking about.
What do you
This is
think?
the crazy
You think
thing
President
we're
Donald
talking
Trump's
about
going to come through
in
for
this
him?
whole system.
I hope
This is
so.
the crazy thing we're talking about in this system.
We got pulled up by our bootstraps, a lot of these people.
Check out how Trump's policies are destroying these red state farmers who voted for him, and we're going to be right back.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
You said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of love. 5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
So my son will not be the second generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Now, a lot of my liberal followers are understandably, justifiably like, well, F around and find out. That's a little too simple for my journalistic standards. There's something deeper going on here. Because if you have a historical understanding of how propaganda works on the human mind, I think everybody who's getting messed over by these Trump policies in red states who voted for him needs to start by suing right-wing media companies for radicalizing them into doing things that are against their best interests and echo chambering them out of the information that could have them more critical about his policies. I'll reiterate, if you ain't got the bandwidth to feel nothing for these people after what they done, I feel you. But low-key, high-key, this is tragic, yo. Because even as late as May, a survey by the Purdue company of like 400 farmers showed that 70% of them still believe that Trump's tariffs is going to have some kind of positive benefit for them. Remember that slew of executive orders that Donald Trump was just signing earlier on in the year? Well, it caused so much bureaucratic instability that it made the USDA pause funding for over 30,000 farmers in the United States. That was strike one. Strike two for the farmers was when Doge came in and gutted USAID. Everybody was like, oh, that's just a front for the CIA across the world. Maybe, but also it created automatic buyers all across the world for American-grown wheat and corn and anything that could bridge the gap for starvation. That's gone. Strike three was the deportations. These farmers literally voted for Trump to steal their workers and wonder why ain't no work getting done when all of these compounding factors are crushing them. Strike four, which is more than you're supposed to have, is what? The dude said it. The tariffs. He said it's the icing on the cake. We tried to tell y'all that it's Americans who pay the tariffs. Y'all didn't listen. So
they are frustrated. They are angry. They are saying they can't afford the inputs they need to keep producing at the same level. And again, I am sitting here just thinking, did nobody explain to them that policy have consequence that don't stop at the border? Did nobody explain to them?
Listen to these farmers. You know what's ironic? A lot of these farmers were dead silent or complicit in black farmers getting screwed over for decades by not only their peers, but by the USDA. So bad that they had to win lawsuit after lawsuit in the billions of dollars to get claims and damages done. And still the USDA was slow with paying them out. Had they not been so racist, they'd have had a larger coalition to argue for what they need. And what's even deeper is that a lot of these farmers' ancestors were given this land in the Homesteading Act of 1862, when freshly stolen land from Native Americans was given to European peasants for pennies on the dollar. We're talking about a tenth of the U.S. landmass. The term chickens coming home to roost is a farming colloquialism that applies here with a ruthless poetic irony. I can't even really get myself to celebrate over this, because I'm looking at how the sins of the father cascade down to the generations, how these farmers inherited not only land, but a culture from their forebearers that allowed them to be prime targets for propaganda like this. The only positive way that I could look at this is possibly a new beginning in disguise. Because if we're going to have an America that works for everybody, it's going to take these folks getting disappointed in this way to let this all burn down, metaphorically speaking, and plant new seeds for the future.
Farmers don't work in isolation. They buy from companies. Those companies buy from another company. That's how the thing works. Some of those inputs comes through an international supply chain. And when you start disrupting those supply chain, prices must move up. And fertilizer is not some expenses that you can just say, I can get easily. USDA data shows that fertilizer can roughly amount to about third to almost half of the operating cost for major crops like corn and wheat. That's serious money I'm talking about here. So when a farmer says, I can't afford fertilizer, I'm listening, but I'm also asking why.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us, harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs. And we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers. And they're critical.
I need your help to save my farm and many other farms. Just wanted to give you guys an update on what we figured out with our contractor, NRCS. So to give you some backstory, if you haven't watched the previous video, please go out, watch that previous video I've got on there. We are possibly going to lose our farm if NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us on the EQIP program.
Yeah, so if we look at, and we're going to divide. So I'll stay with grain and oilseeds because that's what I do day to day, but I just have to say one thing about livestock. For livestock folks, we're in good world for them right now. So I'd love to be able to have as good a world that they're having in GNO, but we just don't. And so there's just so many things, and it's really a supply story this year. When you think about across the globe, we haven't had a year where every country's almost saying all 8 cylinders where we're getting full production. And that's where we are right now. It's also too a bit of a dichotomy in the US is that you've got we're building corn stocks, but the world is not. It's just the opposite in soybeans, where the world's building soy stocks and we're not. And so it's a very weird world, but the fact is we just have so much supply in the world that's just going to keep prices, really on the.
You ever see somebody set their own house on fire and then hand their neighbor $40 billion because their house needs a new roof? Welcome to American trade policy. This is so crazy, just try to hold on. The U.S. slaps tariffs on foreign goods, claiming it will protect American farmers. Sounds tough, right? Except now, those same farmers can't sell their stuff overseas because other countries hit us back. Reciprocated tariffs. That's econ speak for they flipped us the same middle finger. So our beef and soy exports tank. Meanwhile, Argentina jumps in and fills the gap in the Chinese market. They loosen export taxes, flood that market, and start cashing in. And what does America do? We give Argentina a $40 billion bailout. $40 billion to stabilize their economy. So now we've literally bailed out our own competition while American beef producers and farmers suffer. But wait, we're not done there. After bailing them out, the U.S. signs a deal to import Argentinian beef. That's right. The country that just lost beef sales due to this ridiculous tariff policy is now buying beef from the folks who replaced them. And when American ranchers complain, Trump offers them another bailout, similar to the 2018 bailout of $12 billion. What prompted the 2018 bailout? The same damn thing. Overly aggressive tariff policy by Donald Trump. Okay, so where's this money coming from for the new agricultural bailout? This is where it gets fun. From the tariffs the American consumer is forced to pay that started this whole thing to begin with. That's the loop. Tariffs hurt farmers and the working class. Bailouts reward rivals. Imports undercut ranchers. Then another bailout to fix the mess by the last one. Paid for by the American consumers getting charged for the same tariffs that launched this downward spiral in the first place. Every turn of this loop is paid for by us, the American working class. So what would have happened had we not imposed absurd, needless tariffs on China and every other country in the world? Nothing. None of this would have happened. We would be fine, and inflation would have been down to the Fed goal of 2% by now. They call it trade strategy. I call it the dumbest game of buy high, sell low in world history. We are freezing foreign trade while squeezing the working class, all due to the ego of one man-child, and the folks who voted for him are either too naive to see how America is getting screwed or too proud to admit they were wrong. Folks, we can get through this easily if the administration would just acknowledge that tariffs are a tax on the American people and the working class and working poor are getting strangled while the top 1% gains more wealth than any other time in American history. I'm Lee Calvin with Rough Cut Media Network. More boots, less suits. We'll see you next time.
As farm workers asking Trump to spare their staff and their farm workers from these mass deportations. Nearly 2 million of the farm workers don't have status, and they're afraid that there's going to affect the food supply chain. I mean, I'm afraid about that too. Okay, between all the tariffs and the mass deportations, the price of all the food we eat is going to skyrocket. You thought inflation was bad. This is going to be worse. So anyway, it's good to hear that they're banding together asking Trump to spare, but it's not just them that need to be spared. This is according to a Reuters article just recently. My name's Ruby Powers, your go-to immigration attorney. 2 million of the farm workers don't have status, and they're afraid that there's going to affect the food supply chain. I mean, I'm afraid about that too.
The system was built around it. Okay, so USDA says that H2A positions certified for agricultural work increased from just over 48,000 in 2005 to 385,000 in 2024. So this isn't some tiny issue. And when you're a farmer, you don't get to experience those consequences as some abstract economic theory. You experience them when the buyer you depend on isn't buying as much. You experience them when the price changes. You experience them when you have already spent thousands of dollars putting that crop in the ground, and suddenly you are wondering whether it's going to make enough money when you sell it. And that's the irony I'm seeing in this clip now. Some of these farmers are angry about what is happening to them, and they have every right to be angry because it's painful. But I'm wondering how many of them are actually connecting the dots between the policy they supported for and the consequence they are complaining about now. Because it's one thing to say something is hurting my farm, and it's another thing to say or ask what caused it. And if you never ask the second question, You can question years. You can spend years blaming the system or blaming everybody. Why the same policy keep producing the same problem?